Christmas. Hey everyone, I'm James. This is Andrew, and this is Digital Charcuterie. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. We're talking the DCU. And a comment from an Andrew, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic because I just saw the Superman trailer, which just came
out. A week ago
is when I saw it. But time travel.
How good was that thing?
It was a beautiful trailer, man. It did exactly what it needed to do. Gave us faith in the beginning of this DCU.
It's fine because I love Man of Steel. I'm like, I want to see what they're gonna do here. And it's funny how they were like, everyone's like, oh, James Gunn's just gonna make it a comedy, and right away they're like, look how bloody Superman is. Mm-hmm. We bloodied him up. Anyway, it was really good, but let's get into it. It's Christmas Day. We can't keep you. Santa Claus came. I know he brought you a bunch of Black Series, I'm guessing, or something. If the elves can even afford that anymore, I have no idea, because those things have skyrocketed here in Canada. But let's talk a little bit about this. I got this comment a little while ago from I'm just gonna say the name, not the actual name. Drazen Ducat 4013. Drazen Ducat 4013. It's always hard saying names, but I'm just gonna go . This is anyway. The first half of this is in regards to the Superman poster that was released a couple weeks ago. But then they go on to say, I had a pretty nitty idea for a video. One of the things that I am most excited in the new DCU is that it is a fantastical world, and that every city and place will be created, just as Metropolis is clearly crafted into being an authentic Metropolis akin to the comics. I wonder what all the cities will look like. For instance, since this is all fantastical, I would love that the DCU Gotham has fully red skies, or at least sometime during the night, perhaps, as a tribute to the animated series, and that would give such a Gothamy spooky vibe. Would just love to see your thoughts and read everything else. So thank you so much for that comment. And I was going to do the video alone, but I had to bring in Andrew Fantasia because he is Mr. Opinionated when it comes to especially Gotham City of them all. So Andrew, I sent this to you and you're like, let's do it right away without hesitation. So I'm just going to put the ball in your court and let you go at it, because my answer is no, everything should just look exactly like Hamilton, Ontario.
That's the Netflix version of the DC universe.
It's so true.
Everything takes place in a white room.
Absolutely.
Dude, I would never have forgiven you if you had done this video without me, because this is Drazen Ducat. You have just struck a chord in my heart, my friend, because this is something that to me is crucial. It is, visually speaking, the biggest difference between Marvel and DC. Stan Lee was very adamant when he was making Marvel in the 60s, high on God knows how much peyote, where he was like, listen, this should all feel like it's taking place in your backyard. He wanted it to feel like if you lived in New York, you could look out your window and see Spider-Man swing by. That's Marvel. That's awesome. But DC has always been, and you use this phrase, Drazen, otherworldly. That's DC. It's literally an other world. The Earth of DC is not our Earth, and I don't think it should feel like our Earth. When it comes to the cities, the locations, the places where these characters live, that's probably my favorite thing about DC Comics, is just how not Earth places like Metropolis and Gotham and Keystone and Star City and Central City can be. And it's been so damn long since we've seen this. Like, Christopher Nolan, I loved your Batman movies. I loved Man of Steel. I loved a lot of what Snyder and the old DCU were doing. But I never got that feeling. Everything was just like, hey, it's downtown Philadelphia. Yeah. Look at all those totally average glass skyscrapers. And I couldn't help but think, like, where are the giant golden statues of Amadeus Arkham? You know,
They died with the vision of Joel Schumacher.
And that's a shame, because that's half the fun. And I need to give props to the one movie in recent memory, James, that I think did it right. And I think you'll agree with me. Blue Beetle. I can't remember the name of the city he lived in Blue Beetle, but there were a few times where you saw those establishing shots where they clearly made it that his family lived in the poorer area of the city. And there were shots where you would see their house and you would see the cityscape of this poor area. But then in the background, like across a bay, you would see a giant glittering cityscape that was the rich area where Susan Sarandon's character lived. And then just the contrast between that. And when I saw those parts in Blue Beetle, I'm like, yeah, there's DC. That's DC.
Make
comic.
a sequel.
Yeah, they better. And it just evoked that feeling that movies like, you know, the original Michael Keaton Batman evoked the first time you see that Gotham skyline. And even when you play stuff like Arkham Asylum or Arkham City and you stand on a roof and you look out at the Gotham they built, you're like, this is Gotham, because this does not look like any place I've ever seen. You ever watch the movie Mystery Men with Ben Stiller and William H. Macy?
I own it on what you would call a DVD.
A digital video disc? Right on.
DVD.
Yeah, that movie's a lot of fun. And it has, it takes place in a place called Champion City. And it has an establishing shot near the beginning of Champion City. And that's one of my, this is so dorky, but that's one of my favorite shots in all of superhero movies, because like that city looks unreal, literally and figuratively. And throughout the whole movie, they maintain that. It's like, here's this diner that's located underneath an overpass, but on top of another overpass. Like everything is so not how a normal city is laid out. And I love that. So we need that in this new DCEU, and I think we might get it. I don't know. James, did you see anything in this trailer, the Superman trailer, that might have told you we're getting a metropolis that is not of this earth?
No, and I fear that we're going to get a metropolis that is of this earth. And I don't think it'll be New York. I don't think it'll be Chicago. I think it'll be like LA. I think we're gonna get, which it doesn't really look like it's part of this earth half the time either. But I think it's going to be more like that. That's kind of what I got. It's like the way It's Always Sunny kind of hints at that, but just I don't know. There's just this feeling, this vibe about it. I'm like, I feel like they're going for like this is LA or somewhere around there maybe. And I love that they kept, you know, the big globe on the Daily Planet. They have all that stuff going on. And I'm with you guys. I'm like, I wish they would go fantastical with this stuff. Like, I think, you know, the Batman kind of starts to play around with those colors, the orange colors at night. And Greg Fraser, who's not doing Dune Messiah, who did Dune Part 2, Cruise Control, is doing Batman Part 2, and he did Batman 1. And Dune, at the end of Dune Part 2, it's like they didn't use the volume because Villeneuve didn't want to. So they created this lighting grid, which I don't understand one versus the other. Like, I don't like. I don't want to use the volume. I'm above that, but create light anyway. Like, it's weird that it's the same thing. But so I don't know if you've seen the end of it where they have like that big showdown with the orange sky behind them. It's kind of like the same kind of vibe, and it's like, all right. I don't think they're going to do it at Batman 2. I'm not saying, but we're very close to it. And I think Batman, like Gotham City, would really work well with that. Give me a kind of like a different skyline, different texture to the night sky. But I don't know if they're going to go that far. I just feel like I even saw this thing with James Gunn recently where he was talking about Superman, how it's still like it's not totally grounded because they're superheroes, but it's a grounded world where superheroes exist. And I'm like, we need to shove the word grounded out of our butts, like, or into our butts. It should go somewhere around the buttholes, because I'm getting sick of grounded. Like, it's like, oh, good, a grounded superhero. And I don't know if you might not remember this because you're a baby, but like when Iron Man 1 came out, I remember, you could probably find this. I'm paraphrasing here, but somebody asked Favreau about using Mandarin in Iron Man 1, and he goes, we couldn't do it. We couldn't figure it out because we're trying to be grounded. And this is before the MCU had Thor. Like, there was nobody. It was just Iron Man at this point in time, right? Like, so they didn't do it because they also want to be grounded, and that's because Batman Begins ruined superhero movies for a good 5 years or so. Everything was like, how do we make this hyper realistic? And I don't like, and I love Batman Begins. Don't get me wrong, and I love that all the 3 of those movies, and I love the Batman, which are all kind of grounded. But man, if you're gonna go out of this world Fantastical. Give us Fantastical. Make it look a little offbeat, a little different. You don't have to put a diner in between two freeways or anything, but like you can have fun with the design, have fun with the landscape. I think Superman, I do think they're going to do it will look a little bit off. I think there'll be little things, but I don't think they're going to go extravagant. Like Joel Schumacher went like ballistic. He's like, the Batmobile is going to drive on a statue. Like, okay, sure. But I don't think we're going to get anything like that. And to be honest, aside from maybe the three of us, I don't know if people would even want that. To be honest, I feel like people would kind of be like, oh, why doesn't that look real? I think we are conditioned to see cities the way they see them. So I think Metropolis would be kind of like in LA. Gotham will be either Chicago or New York in this world. And I don't know what the other ones are going to be if they're going to try. But I guess Lanterns will be the one where we're really... Lanterns is going to be whatever it is. It's going to be New York, I think, because that's supposed to be like a real world crime show or like a cop show or something with lanterns. So I feel like whatever they end up doing, it's just going to look like New York or Philly or something like that. They won't even try. But you know what's funny is you brought up, I thought you were going to say Shazam. I was really worried you're going to say Shazam had that look, because there's actually a few parts in Shazam where you can see my parents' condo. You can see where my parents live in Shazam. And I'm like, that is nowhere near. I mean, it's not that far, but it's not where it's supposed to be in the movie. So let's stop pretending here. Yeah, it's just there's like it kind of like it's just. I'm sure people in New York get this a lot though. When you see something like that, is not even remotely close to like this one really threw me off, because I'm like, that's where I've I've been there a bazillion times. I'm like, that's not even close to it. So I hope there's nothing recognizable. I'm hoping when I watch it, I'm not like, oh yeah, that's that building I saw when I went to go visit. Oh, there's the Hollywood sign. You know, I hope there's nothing like that in it, but we'll find out.
Yeah, it's a shame that it's not more of a sure thing, because it is so intrinsic to DC's identity. It's so much of what makes it DC as opposed to its competition. I like to hold out hope just because of that Luthor Corp building, because that was cool. A very otherworldly building. So maybe that's a sign of things to come. But
they could just sprinkle it in. Sorry, they could just sprinkle it in. Yeah, they
could. And I feel like the Batman, that Gotham did have its own identity, but it was just unlike the Burton Batman, where it was a character that was always around. The Reeves Batman Gotham was just sort of in the background. It wasn't a character as much. So I'm hoping we get cities that are characters, especially when you're dealing with characters like Superman and Supergirl and the Flash, who can cover a huge amount of distance in the blink of an eye. Their cities should be bigger than our cities. It makes sense. If Superman can travel at the speed of a bullet, going from one end of his city to the other should not be like Cleveland. I can go from one end of Cleveland to another in the blink of an eye. So let's make these cities, give them a bit more meat on their bones. And I really love what the commenter said there about having red skies in the Brave and the Bold, perhaps maybe even some blimps. Maybe even give it the blimps, nice. and give it the 30s look that the animated series kind of stuck to. Right? What if all the guys are in fedoras and all the women's are in like women's?
Well, I think they're going more for like a futuristic approach to, or it's going to be like, I think they are going to go for something a little bit more similar to that, like something in Metropolis where they're all kind of dressed for like a certain an older era. It didn't really come across in the teaser or the teaser, but I think they're going to do something that where it's and that's something about Fantastic Four that I'm really intrigued by. Is it's going to be a future. It's the future, but it's 1960s Earth in the future. I'm really like, okay,
that's so cool.
I hope it's see. Look, I'm like I said, I'm really intrigued by that. That sounds really cool. But I hope it is cool, and I hope it's just not 1960s Earth, and they put on a thing on the screen 2060 or 2960, whatever it is. I hope it's just not like that. And you're like, well, what was the point? I hope like the cars are flying, but they're a 60s style car. Like I hope everything is like 60s, but it's like futuristic. Because if they just make it the 60s in 100 years, I'm like, well, what cares? I'm like, no offense, but so yeah, like I'm really like I think like that movie looks cool. I thought they released the first images of the characters a little while ago, and I'm like, oh, they look good. They're just pictures of actors, really. But yeah, I hope they do that. I hope like superhero movies are in a weird place because, like I said, Iron Man was like strapped down by Batman Begins. Was like it was Batman Begins because Dark Knight wasn't out yet. It was. And that movie was a big hit after Batman and Robin just tanked superhero movies for so long. But Batman Begins comes, and then like Daredevil and stuff, which didn't do too well either. But Batman Begins was one where everyone was like, we have to mimic that one. That's what we have to be. Everything has to be real. But even that Gotham had a monorail on. Like there were things a little bit fantastic. And then in the second one, they're like, suck it. It's just Chicago. We're not even going to. What happened to the monorail thing? Don't even worry about it. We took it down in the last year perfectly. You can't even tell it was there ever. So, but that was just, but now like, so then we went like, it had to be grounded to, has to be fantastic. And DC ended up playing catch up on everything. They set the tone and then they end up having to play catch up after, which was crazy to me. But I think like now they're kind of like trapped in like, we have all these fantastical characters and we can go to, Thor, what's it called? Asgard. We can go to those places. But when it's on Earth, for some reason, we're like, nope, there's 4 cities on Earth: Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, and what did I say? LA. Did I say LA? I don't know what the 4 are. Toronto's not one of them, but it plays all of them when they make it. And it's
Toronto doesn't exist in movie worlds.
But it's always that. And even James Gunn's Suicide Squad, even that, like he was having a little bit of fun, but not really. And Suicide Squad is just, again, that's just Toronto. I think you can see my parents building on that one too. They shot right beside my parents. My dad went for a walk one day and there was a downed helicopter and he kept taking pictures of the.
That's right. I remember that.
Yeah. He was like, well, they're shooting this movie with the Joker. He doesn't sound anything like that. but yeah, I hope they do like separate it from, because look, the DC and Marvel, like, and Marvel's cool because it's New York and usually and where they all are. But like, yeah, man, I really want to see something more fantastical from the DC universe. I want to see places on Earth that I haven't been to before, but maybe I would like to travel to, but I can't. Then you can make a theme park out of them or something. Like, I'd love to see that. Have some fun. Be as creative as you can be with these. And James Gunn's, he's obsessed with comics. Why not utilize what you have at your disposal and look through the comics and be like, well, that's a cool concept. And maybe he might be doing that. I don't know. But it also comes down to who gets the final say. I'm sure he would, but like, is Andy Muschietti going to come in and be like, I want Gotham to look like this? And does James Gunn buy into what he wants? Or is James Gunn saying, this is what your Gotham's looking like? Like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's that way, but you don't know. Like, I don't know.
I hope those conversations are at least happening, because then that means they're putting thought into what a city looks like, as opposed to just point it at the Chicago Stock Exchange and turn on the camera. And when you think of those animated series from the 90s, just how brave it was to say, and they didn't need to do this. They could have just drawn buildings, whatever. But somebody at some point early in the process said, what if this was all Art Deco? And then they rolled with that forever. And I just that contributes so much to the identity of that animated universe. So somebody's got to say something similar for the DCEU, and they have to stick to that gun. I get it. They have to stick to that gun with 2 ends, and hopefully we have something with some personality.
Yeah, I say do it. And you know what? And if it fails, if people are like, that city looks terrible, guess what? They had a makeover in between movies, and or Zod shows up and blows up the whole thing. You do one of those two. All right, Andrew, let's wrap it up. You've got a turkey to go to. How would you like to plug your book?
Like this, by reaching over, grabbing it, and then showing them off to the camera, both at once. My book series, it's a fantasy series. It's called We Were Wizards, and you can get it on Amazon. The purple one is first, followed by the gray one. And if you're looking for a gift for the person in your life who likes fantasy books, I promise you, you can do way worse than this. And trust me, I have.
Also, if you haven't checked out Holy Christmas Batman from my friend Brian Royer, link in the description below. It is a jolly good time. Yeah, thanks everybody for watching. Andrew, thanks for joining me today. Everybody pick up his book. We should put a link to it in the description below. They are wonderful books, and they weigh 75 pounds each. But thank you everybody for watching. We really appreciate it. Here, let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. And until next time, may be the master of your own universe.
Look up.